Right, welcome back to the Me, Myself, and Hopefully You podcast. My name is Tariq, a 19-year-old university student currently experiencing a midlife crisis. Why, you might ask? Because I have no idea what I want to do with my life. I started this year off with coming to university, and well, COVID kind of ruined that. And so I decided to start a podcast where I get to meet people from an array of different backgrounds with some incredible stories to tell. And today, um, we have definitely got an incredible story. Today, I sit with Ramon Reed. I keep on calling him Roman. It's not Roman, it's Ramon. I sit with Ramon Reed, who has just recently come out of prison. And not, a 1 or 2 year sentence, even though that is a bit long. I couldn't do 1 or 2 years, but a 24-year sentence. He was in the American prison system for 24 years. We have a chat about everything, about how he got such a long sentence, why he got such a long sentence. We have a chat about what the day-to-day life in a prison is like. We have a chat about racism in prison. We talk more about what the sort of process of being in prison is like and interacting with other inmates, intergang warfare. We also have a chat about how he got attacked in the middle of the night and how that has given him severe PTSD. I mean, just so many different topics. We get into some pretty emotional topics as well. So if you're an emotional person, then get the tissue box ready, because the way Ramon talks about his grandma is incredible, and his grandma did pass away um, whilst he was in prison. So get ready for that. And we also just have a chat about sort of what it's been like coming out. 24 years, a lot has changed. Like I said earlier on, I'm 19 years old, so that's my entire lifetime that he was in prison, which I don't think I actually mentioned to him. But he was in prison for my entire lifetime, and the world has changed since then. So we just have a chat about the first things he did. Some of you might know that one of the first things he did is going to Walmart and check out all the cereals. A very wholesome video. I would highly recommend you check that out after you obviously watch this podcast. But yeah, I've not got much else to say apart from the fact that Ramon was amazing. You're in for one hell of a podcast. I would actually go out and say that this was my favorite podcast that I've ever done. Despite the amazing guests I've had, this one was incredible, and Ramon was amazing as well. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Ramon Reed.
I don't know if this is working.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, mate. No, it's fine. Honestly, to be fair, I'm very impressed that you actually managed. Because I was quite worried. I was thinking, is he going to manage to be able to do it? Because I mean, you've been away for a long time, Raven, and we'll definitely get into that. But thank you so much for taking the time to come on. I was very surprised when you said you'd be willing to come on. But I saw I think a video of you on. Well, I mean, we'll get into that later. But yeah, but just thank you so much for coming on. I'm quite actually blown away by the fact that you actually did come on. I'm very, very excited. I don't think I've been more excited for a podcast episode in a long time. Just because of the story that I bet that you have, and I can't wait to sort of start asking you. And I bet there's a lot of your followers that probably want to hear it as well. And I'm sure you're going to get more and more followers over the next few weeks because of the interesting story. But I mean, how are you doing, Raymond? Everything good?
Oh man, God is good, man. He's good. He's been good to me, man. I have no complaints, man. I heard this saying. It said I'm living my best life. So that's, if I could say, I'm living my best life, man.
No, I bet. I mean, it's incredible. I've watched every single one of your videos, and I just can't wait to get into it. Essentially, the layout of this podcast is just it's basically just me sort of giving you a bit of an interview, essentially. And the way I'll start it off is I'm not going to introduce you. I normally edit in an intro and outro at the end. So we just get straight into it. I start off with some quick fire questions, right? And they're going to be some interesting ones because of how long you've been away, it's going to be interesting
Okay.
to see how you respond to those quick fire questions. Then I'm
All
just
right.
going to ask you to introduce yourself a little, just tell us a bit more about yourself, and then we'll head straight into the questions. And yeah, we'll just, I guess
Let's go, man.
that's
I'm ready.
essentially
I'm
it.
ready. I'm fired up, man. Ready to go.
Um, Brilliant. Right. Okay. So, are you all set up? Yeah. Everything ready? Have you got a bottle of water or anything like that?
No, should I have a bottle of water? I was just
I mean, you might get thirsty. I don't know. I get really thirsty really easy, so I always have something to drink. But I mean, if you're all right, then happy days.
I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready to go. I'm fired
Right.
up, man.
Brilliant. So we will get started.
I'm excited, dude. I'm excited. Like I can't wait. I can't stop smiling. I'm like honored, dude. I don't know what to think.
Honestly, the honor is all mine. Honestly, the pleasure is all mine. Sorry, because well, I mean, again, we'll get into it, but I'm excited, Raymond. Honestly, and I'm telling you right now, in over the next few weeks or months, I'm telling you more and more people will want you on their podcast. I can already tell.
Okay.
Right, so we'll get started. So the first quick fire question is a bit of a random one, but who would you consider as your role model in life, or your hero almost?
Man, I like Tupac, man. Tupac Shakur, man. I relate to him. Everything that he talks about, I could relate to. My mom, you know, like I know if you saw the video where I did my mom's hair, and I said when Tupac was talking about Dear Mama, he was talking about my mom, man. So like, he's an inspiration to me, Tupac. That's just on a you know, a spiritual. I mean, a human level. On a spiritual level, it would be across. My heroes are in the Bible, biblically, are Paul and John.
Why Paul and
Paul and Joseph, actually. Excuse me, Paul and Joseph.
why Paul and Joseph specifically?
Because Paul used to persecute Christians, and then he had the experience on the road to Damascus, and it changed his life. And Joseph was accused of doing some things, and he went to prison, and then when he was in prison, he got elevated. And the whole time after I got saved, I gave my life to Christ. Every time that I went somewhere, I just kept getting elevated. I just kept getting elevated. So, and I'm doing, it's still happening now. So I look at the conversion of Saul to Paul, and then the elevation of Joseph.
Yeah, it sort of it links well. I mean, we'll get into it later, but it definitely links well into your life. I can see why. I studied a variety of religions whilst I was in schools, so I know about sort of Paul's story, how he was Saul before, and then he became Saint Paul,
Right.
and Joseph as well. I can definitely see the sort of links and how you might find a bit of commonality with your own story with that of Paul and Joseph's. My next quick fire question is a bit of a weird one. I know you're recording on your phone, aren't you? Are you recording on your phone?
Yeah. Am I recording this now?
No, sorry. You're just on your phone, aren't you? Whilst you're
yeah, I'm on my phone. I'm on my phone.
Brilliant.
This phone is amazing, man. It's amazing.
Yeah, I know. Again, we'll get into why you're so amazing, because the thing is, not everyone knows yet why you're so excited about the phone or anything like that. So we'll get into that straight away, just in a second. It's a random question. What's the first picture you've got on that phone? Have you taken any pictures yet?
Yeah, I took my first selfie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to post that. I should post that on there, man. I took my first selfie, man, but I didn't have a phone, so I used my son's phone. So what was the first picture I took on this phone? I don't know. What I have to look and see. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
I just learned how to. I don't know how to. I just learned how to send a picture to somebody else today. So
wow.
my daughter I was like, how do you send a picture to somebody? So she was like, you just do this and push share. And I was like, okay, all right. Then she did it. And I was like, how did you do it? Like, I don't even know how you did it. You just did it. You didn't tell me how you did it. So yeah.
Because for us, it's just like, yeah, you do that, there you go. And then you're just going to be like, wait, what did you do? That was like 100 steps there. I don't know what I'm doing. This is like rocket science. And I can completely understand that. If I try to show my, even when I sometimes try to show my dad some things, he'll just be like, wait, what did you do? Wait, show me again. Do it again.
Yeah.
And you'll have to repeat it and a lot slower down. But yeah, I mean, congrats on your first selfie. You're definitely in 2021 when you're taking selfies. I can tell you that.
Well, I didn't do the lips thing like.
Oh, you should have done that. That's got to be that's what you got to do in the next selfie then.
All right.
That's what you got to do. My final quick fire question, it's going to be an interesting one because you've been out for over 20 years. But if there was, God forbid, a house fire and everyone came out alive, pets, family, friends, everyone came out and survived and they were well, but you could only keep one item, so one physical thing, what would that physical thing be?
To be honest, the first thing that came into mind was this picture of my grandma that's on my mom's wall.
Oh wow, okay. So your grandma had a big part in your life, yeah.
Yeah, my grandma spoiled me rotten, man. And today we went by her gravesite. You know, she died while I was in prison, and that's actually the next set of. I think that I'm debating on what I'm going to post next. Is it going to be the situation with me going to see my grandma, you know, or this interview with my dad. So,
Trevor, honestly, the videos are incredible. Could you sort of maybe, I mean, as far in detail as you want, is explain why your grandma played such a huge role in your life?
So when I was little, me and my mom and my sister, you know, we were poor. You know, we were poor coming up, and you know, a lot of times we didn't really like. We were in like when we had to move, like we would go to my grandmother's house because it's my mom's mom. So when we moved to Alliance, Ohio, you know, my grandma lived in Alliance, Ohio, and I used to stay out there and I worked. My grandfather owned he laid concrete, and he taught me how to work hard. He was a hard man and he worked hard, and he taught me everything. But my grandma was just like, she spoiled me rotten, man. She was like, I was her baby.
Yeah, that's what grandmas do.
Yeah, she spoiled me rotten, man. And I just miss her. You know, she's like, my grandma was my best friend, man. She's like, I love my grandmother. I love my grandma really a whole lot, man. I miss her a lot.
No, we'll get more into sort of with your grandma and living with them, what that was like as well. But before we do that, Raymond, could you sort of introduce yourself to the audience and just introduce yourself.
Like, I don't know what to say. Like, my name is Ramon Reed. I'm 51 years old. I'll be 52 in August, actually. I just did 20 plus years in prison. I just got out last Tuesday. And what inspired me to I don't know, I don't know, man. I don't even know how to introduce myself. I'm me. Like, I just, like, there's nothing to really say other than I'm me, man. I'm not going to change. I'm going to just be me. I try to be as honest as possible about everything.
Well, it was so interesting. I mean, first of all, I apologize because I've been calling you Raymond. I initially did think your name was Ramon, but then there was no E at the end. So then I thought, oh, maybe it was Raymond, but it's Ramon. So I apologize for calling you Raymond.
That's okay.
Thank you very much. But I mean, let's start at the beginning. I mean, you said you were in prison for 20 plus years, and you just got out last Tuesday. I didn't know it was that early that you just gotten out.
Yeah.
And I have seen sort of your YouTube channel, and for anyone that doesn't know, Ramon has decided to sort of document his life now outside of prison. And the first one that I saw was of you going into Walmart. And was it what was it? What were you looking? Was it chips? Yeah, no.
Cereal, man. I wanted to see the cereal aisle, man.
And
I was excited to see the cereal aisle, man. I'm gonna tell you what started that. I was looking in Wired magazine, right? And they had this picture. You know, Wired magazine is a big magazine, and they had this panoramic view of the cereal aisle in a Walmart. And I was like, dude, that is a lot of cereal. I said, man, I want to go see that for real. Like, I want to see if it's really, like, if it was just for pictures or they actually have like that much cereal. And so, you know, I'd never been to Walmart, and as I was getting closer to getting out, the guys were asking me, what's the first place you gonna do? You know, what's the first place you gonna go? Where you gonna go? I said, I'm going to Walmart. They was like, what? Walmart? I was like, yeah. They was like, man, you mean like Walt Disney or something? Like, you going to Walmart? And I was like, dude, I've never been to Walmart, man. I want to go to Walmart. I want to go to the cereal aisle, man. Then I'm gonna go to the chip aisle. I said, but first I'm gonna take my first selfie. You know what I'm saying? Then I asked Google. I asked Google to take me to the nearest Walmart because I wanted to see if the GPS system actually took me there.
And it did.
Yeah, it took me right there, man. It was weird.
I bet it was weird. I mean, well, I mean, let's go. If you don't mind, I'd like to go, essentially right to the beginning, because people are going to be asking. So 20 plus years in prison,
Yeah.
What did you do? And I've seen the video, I've seen you explain it, but I want to talk more about it. Is how did you even end up with?
Well, it didn't come like that. So, like I said in the video, how it all began, what I left out was when I shot this. Okay, so you want me to start from the beginning and come forward, or what?
Yeah. So from the beginning, if you don't mind, yeah.
All right. So like when I graduated from high school, before I graduated, I was set to go to the service. I had enrolled in the Army in the delayed entry program. I was a star high school wrestler, and I wanted to go to the service. I didn't want to go to college anymore. So my coach's son and one of his friends decided to take me out, and they took me out, and we went to this bar that was predominantly white, and we got into an altercation about some guys, you know. So what's my language situation here? Like,
whatever you want, Ramon.
Okay, so let's be honest. So the guys were arguing with Marcus and Joey about being a nigger lover.
Oh, okay.
And you know, and it was like, man, all right. So we didn't want to get any problems. And I got Marcus and Joe, and we left the bar. And we went up the street to the gas station, and I went inside to pay for the gas. And when I came out, those same guys were surrounding Joe and Marcus. And so I got in the middle of them, and I was like, hey, man, we don't want no problems. You guys don't really want no problems with me. And it just escalated. And like, one of them had a nightstick, one of them had a baseball bat, one of them had a a crowbar, and the other one had one of those miniature Louisville Slugger bats. And one guy, they hit Marcus in the leg, and Joe took off running, and I was stuck fighting these guys. And about 2 weeks prior to this, I had stole my grandfather's gun out of the drawer for no other reason, I thought it was cool. You know, that's no other reason. I didn't have no purpose. I wasn't planning on doing anything, or I was a good kid. So I had took the bullets out of the gun and put them in my jacket pocket, and just put the gun in the glove compartment so it was unloaded. And when I got inside, when we got into this altercation, and they hit me in the face with the crowbar and busted my lip open, I got 37 stitches right here across my lip. And I was trying to get away. We was fighting, and I managed to get inside the car. I got inside the car. I grabbed the gun. I managed to get 2 bullets side by side in the gun, and I fired a warning shot in the air. They didn't think it was a real gun. It was a Smith & Wesson 38 Special. And then as he was hitting me again, I turned my head and aimed down towards his leg and pulled the trigger, and it hit him, and he fell. So the police came, and they arrested me at the hospital and took me downtown and charged me with felonious assault. And they didn't charge anybody else. And they had to take me to the hospital. They had to take me to the hospital first, and then they took me to the medical ward in the jail when they held me, because I had, I think I had like 3 broken ribs, 2 broken fingers, had 37 stitches here, 18 stitches here, 12 stitches on the other side. I was pretty beat up, but I shot this guy, you know. So I really didn't. In my mind, I shot him in self-defense. So I went. They ended up what they do is shock. It's called shock probation. They wanted me to go to prison, get a number, and come out. That was it. So I went to prison, got the number, and came out. So at that time, when I came out, I was on 5 years probation. But I didn't realize. Say it again.
Well, sorry, I was sorry to interrupt, but I was just, what's the point of that then?
In America, the prison system is big bucks. Yeah. Huge bucks. So for every person that they incarcerated, it cost them about $42,000 a year. And that's what they charge the taxpayers, $42,000 a year per inmate. So for every number that they get that $42,000 a year annual. So that's why the prison system is packed with individuals of low income and people of color. So okay. That was and you know, you got to remember, it was, you know, at that time, you know, crack was coming in, and you know, they was doing this movement with crack, and they was having this war on drugs, and it's just in the 90s it was really bad. But I had got incarcerated in 88, so the whole thing was just to go to prison, get the number, and come out, right? So I got the number, and I came out, and I was on probation, and I started selling drugs, and then I got caught with a gun. I had put my gun in the glove compartment in this other guy's car, and we got pulled over by the cops. They found the gun. They charged me with the gun. So I got convicted of carrying a concealed weapon. And because I was on probation when I caught the case, they revoked my probation and sentenced me to, I got 18 months to 5 years for the shooting the guy. Then I got 4 to 10 years for carrying a concealed weapon. And they ran those charges consecutive. So it
They
ended
build
up
up
being,
together.
yeah, no, they put it back to back. See, they put it together, it would have just been the 4 to 10 would have absorbed the 1.5 to 5.
Oh, right, yeah. So like you'd have 4 to 10, and then you'd have the other one like right next to each other,
Yeah,
right
so
after
what
one
they,
another.
right, so they did it to where they added them together. So they added the 18 months to 4 years to 4 to 10 to the 4 to 10 years. So it changed it to 5.5 to 15.
Ah, okay.
So I ended up doing about 9 years on that total, right? And then I got out on parole. I got paroled to my dad's house, and that was a situation in itself. My dad, I need to tell that story. I got to tell that story in a video. And actually, I should. I think I might.
Well, you did mention it in the video where I think I think it was your third or your fourth video where you were talking about what, you know, everyone was asking, you know, how you got into prison, and you mentioned parole with your dad. Well, if you don't mind me asking, why was that sort of a situation? You don't have to go into as much detail, you know. I guess you want to do your own video on that, but you know, briefly, why? What do you mean that it was a situation?
Because my dad was a pimp.
Oh, okay.
And his girlfriend or wife was one of his girls, one of his ladies.
Mm.
And we was living in one of her tricks' house, and the whole thing was she kept coming on to me. They're both passed now, they're both gone, but she kept coming on to me to have sex with her, and I kept refusing. And ultimately, she made me have to choose between giving in or getting out. And so she lied to my dad and told my dad a whole bunch of lies, and he believed her, and they both jumped on me, you know. And you know, I had to defend myself, but I really just blanked out, man. I couldn't believe that they jumped me, and I blanked out, and I beat them up pretty bad.
So when you say jumped you, do you mean like as in they tried to hit you? And
no, they beat they my dad sucker punched me, and when I fell on the ground, his wife kicked me.
Oh,
and
wow.
they just started beating me. I mean, that's the true story, man. And I mean, I'm a grown man. I'm not going to let anybody just beat me up, you know. And so I got up, and I really blanked out. I really don't know what I did. I just know when I finally came through that they were both laid out, and you know, I took off on the run. And so, my parole officer was paging me, telling me to turn myself in because I beat my parents up. And that's how I ended up in Texas with a girl. And I was broke, we was hungry, didn't have a place to live. And I was like, man, I'm going to find us some money. And I decided to go rob a bank. And so I saw a bank, I wrote a note, and I walked into the bank. I handed her the note. She looked at me, gave me the money. I turned around and walked out, and that was it. So I went back to the hotel room that we were staying in, and she don't even know that I robbed the bank. She wasn't even there. She was at work. So I counted the money. I saw the tracking device in the money, and I was like, holy crap. So I tried to flush it down the toilet, and the toilet backed up. I was like, God, what else could go wrong? So when I opened up the door, I was going to go get the maid. When I opened up the door, I looked out, the police was there. I was like, God. So I shut the door, grabbed the money. I had some clippers, some beard trimmers that I used. I kept putting them in my pocket. I put my gun in my back, and I went out. I got in my car, and they chased me. And when they caught me, they asked when they caught me. So this is when I tell you that whatever you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. They asked me about that gun, man, and I said, yeah. And that's how I got charged with armed bank robbery. And they sentenced me to 16 years, 7 months. So that was the total of 9 plus 16 is what, 25?
25, yeah.
Yeah, 25, something like that. That's how I came to that number.
So
When I got arrested, so this is how it started. No, as a matter of fact, I take that back. So when I was on parole when I was on state parole when I caught the federal armed bank robbery case. So I served, this is what happened. I served the 16 years and 7 months. And then when I got out of the federal system, Ohio for being on parole had a detainer on me and came and picked me up. And when they came and picked me up, they gave me the rest of my sentence that I owed them for that 15 years, which turned out to be like 7 years. So I ended up doing like the 7 years, and then that's how it's 23 years. That's what I was talking about, the numbers. So it was just 23 years. I did 23 years straight, and then that's when I got out. I got out Tuesday.
So you went. So it was 2 prisons then, wasn't it? 2 separate prisons that you were in. So you went.
It was 2 separate systems.
Oh, okay. What do you mean by that?
It was, so we got the federal prison system and the state prison system. Each state has its own prison system, and then the federal government has a prison system. So I did the armed bank robbery is a federal offense. I mean, because it's federally insured, that means it's a government insured body. So they gave me federal charges for that. And then the state case is individual states. So that's just, I did about half the time well, 2/3 of the time in the federal system, and the other third in the state system.
Is one prison like, is it being in the second system, is it a little bit more lenient, or is it pretty much just the same but different name?
So there's a contrast between, there's pros and cons in both. So this is how I explain it. In the federal system, you got more rights. The food is a little bit better. They got better programming, right? In the state, you got more freedom, and it's not so violent, right? And it's you can get TVs and you can get TVs in your cells. You can get radios and Walkmans, but in the federal penitentiary, you're not having a TV in your cell. So there's this pros and cons, it's one way or the other.
Oh,
and
wow,
it's more,
okay.
I tell you, it's more respect in the federal system, is because there's consequences behind disrespect in the more so in the federal penitentiary than in the state system.
What, as in respect between you and the prison guards, or respect between you and the rest of the inmates?
It's more respect all the way around, from staff to inmate, inmate to inmate, and staff to staff.
Is it sort of common to see is it uncommon to see bad behavior then?
Oh no, it's not uncommon at all. It's like I've seen some things, man. I've seen a lot of things, man. I've seen a lot of things, man. A lot. I've seen terrible things.
Well, I mean, if you don't mind, let's get into a bit of that then. Are you okay with that? If there's anything you don't want to talk about, then I'll edit it out. I'm more than happy to not talk about it.
I don't mind. So
yeah, no, I want to know everything. I wish you had a book, because I would read that book, honestly.
I want to write a book. I'm going to write. Hey, that's another story, man. I was writing a book, and the dang state's prison system lost it.
Oh,
they lost the whole thing, man. I was so mad.
How did you lose it?
So I was getting transferring from prison to prison, and the property that I didn't want to take, I sent home. Right? It never reached its destination.
Oh man.
And it's gone. Nobody knows where it's at.
That must be so. How many days did you document in that book?
The book was basically done. It was done. I was just waiting on my release and see where the next chapter was going to end at. I'm so mad, man. I've been writing in that book for years, man, and it just disappeared. How long were you writing that? Were you writing that from the beginning, or a few years in? Probably I was writing that book for about 6 years, man, 6-7 years.
And it's all gone.
Yep, it's all gone. I had like 20-something chapters written.
Why? Yeah. No, see, I'd be so, I don't know how I'd feel. But then I guess you've now, I know you were obviously upset, but now you've got this sort of opportunity through things like YouTube and social media to now tell your story. So maybe you'll end up doing something completely different. Rather than the book, you'll have a YouTube channel. I mean, your YouTube channel, if you go, I don't know if you, I'm sure you do look at the comments. and everyone's so like interested in your life, and that's why I wanted to get you on. I want to talk about when you went to prison, because I know I didn't really explain myself. I'm 19 years old. I've had no experience of prison. I know
Okay.
I look, yeah, I know I look like
you don't look nowhere near 19, man. I bet if you shaved that beard off, you did.
Oh yeah. I've had a beard since I was like 14. This beard.
Oh my God, dude.
Not even joking. Yeah. I'm blessed with good genes, I guess. Blessed with good genes. But and every guest says that. That's why But yeah, I'm 19 years old, so I've got no experience of sort of prisons and I'm a goody two shoes, right? I do my schoolwork. I'm in university right now. I'm in college.
Good for you. Good for you, man. Good for you.
And I'm doing this because I'm doing a podcast because I enjoy it and I want to get to meet people like you. But so for someone like me that has no idea what prison is like, what is that sort of first day like when you're like, right, first day of my sentence, I'm here for years? What are you doing? What's going through your head?
Well, it depends on what stage you're talking about. Like the very first time I went to prison, or when I went to the federal system, knowing that I was getting ready to do some years.
When you went to the federal system, knowing that you were going to do.
So when I went to the federal system, I had this attitude because I was in Texas, right? And in Texas, it's a whole different. They still on the they got a lot of racism in Texas, man. A lot of racism. They still calling you boy and nigga and especially in the penal system, man. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to be in this, I had already did some time in the state and some hard prisons in the state system. So I knew how to do time, but I was in the federal system, and the federal system, it's gangs. Everything is gangs, right? You have to belong to a gang. So, and the federal system is broken up into states, what state or territory, or wherever you're from. So me being from Ohio, I had to be from Ohio. So when I first got there, I was like, yo, what's up? I'm from Ohio, and they wanted to make sure that what they call that I wasn't hot, meaning that I didn't testify on nobody, I didn't snitch on nobody, I didn't have a sex case or child molester or rapist. I didn't, just you had to be a stand-up guy to be on the compound first of all. So my whole intention was to show my paperwork to show that I was clean. So one of my viewers had made a comment about, man, I don't know if this dude's paperwork is good. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm glad that he said that, because my paperwork is excellent.
Yeah.
You can ask, I got a pristine reputation in the prison system. Or you can ask any guy that ever knew me in prison what kind of guy I was, and they'll tell you, man, he's a stand-up dude, man. But he was an honest dude. I was, I made my bones. I had to crack a couple skulls, but I still, I was respectful. Usually when I got into a fight with somebody, it's because of them, something they did. So
you mentioned there sort of about gangs. So is there sort of like everyone is in their own gangs, and then
each state. So me being from Ohio, we got the Ohio gang, then you got the Texas gang, and then you got the Florida gang, and then you got the DC gang, and then you got some coalitions where because it's a numbers game, it's all about numbers, like whoever's got the most. So you might have like down south, Ohio doesn't have a big representation of parties down south. So we correlate with the Midwest region. So it'll be, and what we call is Midwest is everything above the Mason-Dixon line and in between the Rocky Mountains and the Appalachian Mountains. So if you get a map, you think about that, that's all the Midwest. So that's like Missouri, Indiana, Illinois, the Dakotas, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, those Oklahoma, those are like Midwest. Everybody's Midwest.
And so that's one like gang essentially then.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, and that'll be one region. You know what I'm saying? But it would be like the Midwest Coalition, right?
Oh, okay.
But we all inside that coalition is all individual gangs. So it'd be all the Ohio, Michigan.
Yeah. So when you first go in, is that what you're thinking right now? And I need to find out my Ohio guys and
yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So that's what you first. So are you just asking around? Oh, mate, are you from Ohio? Are you from Ohio?
No,
Who's from
no,
Ohio?
no.
How do you do that?
Soon as I went to what they call Bloody Beaumont, right? It's in Beaumont, Texas. It's a disciplinary unit. So, the worst of the worst is there. And soon as you come on, like they know that like one thing I'm gonna say about prison is the inmates know exactly what's going on all the time, right? So they knew that we were coming and what time we were coming out, and they were waiting out on the yard, and you have to walk a gauntlet. And as you walk in the gauntlet, the guys will be like, yo, where you from, bro? Where you from, homie? You know what I'm saying? I'd be like, Ohio. And they'd be like, yo, hey, man, hey, here go your homie. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have to go look for nobody. They already,
okay.
You know what I'm saying? They when I come through, they was all out there representing. As soon as I get there, they act, it's like you got to show your paperwork if you got it. And if you don't, you got 2 weeks to get it. And if you don't get it, you're going to leave. You got to get out of there.
Okay. So I mean, if like I mean, you mentioned there that if you don't have your paperwork, or if your paperwork says that you've done something, with children or women or whatever, then essentially they don't want you. What happens to them? Are they just or do they have their own gang, or are they just on their own and basically meet for the predators?
Some of those guys, well, they got the renegades, which is the guys that don't belong to anybody, have their own gang themselves. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, if you got a sex case, especially in the United States Penitentiary, you're probably gonna get some holes poked in you. Just to be honest, you're gonna get your head split open and some holes poked in you.
Well, I always find that quite interesting because obviously, you're in a prison, and I mean, with your case, I guess, I mean, I remember when I watched the video of you explaining why you were in prison for so long, and I remember thinking, so he was in prison for 20 plus years. I mean, yes, he did bad things and he robbed a bank, etc. But there are people who, I mean, I don't know in America, but in this country, I'm from the UK. There are people who are pedophiles. They've raped women, and they've gone off a lot easier than you had. You're 20. So there are pedophiles that come out after 5-10 years in this country.
It's the same here, man. It's the same here. I just don't understand it, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why they get so punished. In the prison system, man. And those guys, like they ended up having to make a whole prison just for them type of guys.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because they were always getting, like, once we find out something like that, it was problems for them. Problem.
Is that what they do now? Like, as in, if you're any of that, then you end up going to, rather than going to a prison with everyone else, you go to a separate prison.
Pretty much in the federal system, yeah.
Oh, okay. So what about at the time? Because obviously there's this sort of almost, these guys need to get punished. Do you automatically feel like that? Like you're like, yeah, they've got to get punished, or is that something that after a few years you start going in your head, yeah, these guys are, whatever, they need to get punished as well? Like, is that what you're thinking? Or are you just thinking, I don't care, I'm just gonna?
Well, I mean, when I first got introduced into the penal system, that was the code that was instilled in me from, the older generation that had already been in the penal system. Was like, hey, they say snitches and excuse my language, snitches and bitches get stitches. You know what I'm saying? And guys that were sex offenders. I remember when I was in the county jail. This is when I was like 19 when I first got arrested, and I knew I was going to prison. They had me on C1 South, which was the young bucks. All the young, you had to be 21 and under to be on that range. And the CO came around, and there was this guy that had been raping little kids, little 8-year-old girls. And the CO came around and was like, hey, that guy that was raping them little girls, yeah, he'll be here in about an hour. You know what I'm saying? He let us know that he was coming. And he said, I won't be back down here. When he comes, I won't be back down for a while.
So is he doing it because he knows you guys are gonna?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes. You know what I'm saying? So it was just instilled in us that was something that was what I learned as part of the prison culture. It was like, man, if you messing with kids, you raping, we gonna mess you up, man. We gonna mess you up.
You know what the crazy thing about that is that if you actually ask people, people who aren't in prison and members of the public, and you tell them that goes on, 99% of them will go good. we want them to get even more harsh punishment. Like the people themselves, like because of the sort of, because I mean, like you said, you robbed a bank, you didn't even successfully rob the bank, and then you got caught within a few hours or a few minutes of robbing it.
A few minutes.
Exactly, a few minutes. So it's not, in the grand scheme of things, you didn't actually harm anyone. And you get a much harsher sentence than someone that has harmed. I mean, like you said, 8-year-old girls. And if you speak to any member of the public, they'll go, you know what? At least these prisoners have. It's so weird for me because it's like these prisoners have their own sort of moral code. Like, okay, yeah, we could kill people, but if you've hurt little kids, you're getting beaten up.
Right. It's man. The only thing I can say about the prison system, man, it's just an entire different world, man. It's the world within the world. World. It's got its own rules. It's got its own laws. It's got its own codes. It's got its own morals. The value system is different. The economy's got its own economy. It's the world, man. It's a society within a society.
I don't know if you've come out last Tuesday, which just blows my mind. I don't. There's a guy called Sean Atwood. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's on YouTube, and now I'll send you the link to his channel. And he was in prison for, I can't remember how many years, but he was in Arizona State Penitentiary or something like that.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Yeah,
he was in there because he was like a drug lord and everything, and he's got some crazy stories, and he's got some books as well, and he's got a podcast as well. I'll link you to some stuff because I think you'd find them really interesting. Because there's stories. There's one guy his name is Nick Yaris. He got 26 years. He was on death row, and then they ended up finding out that he was innocent. So he served like, he was like on years. Have you heard of him? Yeah.
Yeah, well, not him, but I've heard of guys like him, man. There's a lot of guys that are in prison innocently, man. And the DNA is saving a lot of guys. DNA is saving. I met like one of my friends. I ain't gonna say he's a friend, man. Just a guy that you really don't make friends in prison, man. It's like that's the honest to God truth, man. It's hard to make friends in prison, because you can't trust nobody. But one of my guys, he had served 40 years. And they realized that he was wrongly convicted because DNA freed him, and he was getting ready to get out, man. And he was like, he couldn't believe it, man. He was just in tears, man. And I was happy for him because he kept, saying that he was innocent. He was innocent. I know another guy right now, Mr. Wilson, who's in the prison that I just left, man. He's innocent, and he served his country. He went to Vietnam. He was in Vietnam serving his country. He came out, and he never thought in his wildest dreams that they would convict him on something that he didn't do, and they did. So I think the Innocence Project is trying to get him too. They're working on his case.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like how long? What was that?
That's not uncommon, man. It's not uncommon.
Yeah, no, it's crazy when you hear those sort of stories, and it's especially like, just like for someone like me that has, I'll never get into any sort of criminal activity, but the fact that, these people are just sort of around somewhere and they end up in prison, just because of the time or the place that they were in, that certain, time and place. They ended up going into prison for something that they just didn't do. And, it's not just 1 or 2 years, it's 20, 30 years that they end up spending there. Do you feel like I know we can't have a perfect sort of criminal justice system, but even in your case as well, do you feel like there's a lot of, sort of racism in terms of the sentences that they give out? So if you were a white guy, they would have given you 10 years, you would end up serving 10 instead of 20. Do you think that would have happened?
Hey, that's an understatement, man. So, with see, my case is different in kind of in a sense because I didn't catch a drug case. I got this armed bank robbery, which really looks bad on paper, but look, the guys that got these drug cases, right? So they got this, they just revamped this, but it used to be 100 to 1. The sentencing ratio used to be 100 to 1. So meaning that if you got caught with one gram of crack cocaine, was equivalent to 100 grams of powder cocaine.
Okay.
You see that?
Yeah.
So 1 gram, if you got caught with 1 gram of crack cocaine, you got the same sentence as somebody that had 100 grams of powder cocaine. So then you have to, what you have to look behind the scene is who uses crack and who uses powder, right? And it's the black and brown and low income neighborhoods that use crack because it's a cheap high, and it's the upper class that uses powder, right?
Oh, okay.
So that's where the sentence. So, you know, if I got caught with, 17 grams of crack cocaine, I might as well get ready because I'm getting a long sentence. That's like having, you see what I'm saying? It's different. And those guys were getting these crazy sentences, man. And, like I can just tell you like the disciplinary actions that happen in prison. Like I remember, I'll give you an example. Me and my coworker, we were both cooks in the prison system. We were both cooks on the same shift, and we were bunkies. We lived on top of each other. Like he was a top bunk, I was a bottom bunk, and we both had to be to work at a certain time. Well, neither one of us went to work, so they wrote us both what they call a ticket or an incident report, a conduct report is what they call it, a conduct report. And we both had to go to RIB, but when they wrote the ticket, they wrote the exact same ticket, the wording and everything. Only thing they did was switch my name for his name. When we went to RIB, they put me in a hole and they let him go.
Was he white?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
and he couldn't believe. Neither one of us could believe it. We got identical records. Like our it's the same thing. Like it was just the same thing, man. And that's always been the way it was.
Was that the same even right at the big end of your sentence?
Well, at the end of my sentence, so like, okay, I man, this is crazy. I was, you know what a Stevens minister is? I doubt it. You probably don't know what a Stevens minister is, but I'm a certified.
I know nothing. I just want to learn.
Yeah, so I'm a certified Stevens minister, man, and what we do is we sit with patients that are dying, right? We sit with them, we comfort them so they don't pass alone, so they have somebody there with them. We pray with them. If their family comes, we pray with their family. We just offer care and consolation and condolences to people. And so the prison that I was in, it was a hospital unit. So we had 2 sections. We had Zone A and Zone B. Zone A was the hospital itself. Was the correctional medical center, and Zone B is where the healthy inmates live to the staff, the hospital, right? So I would go over to Zone A every day. So meaning that I had community clearance to go from one prison to another, and go work with these guys. And so this to be able to sit with these guys, I actually lost my train of thought, man. I had a bad thought. So what was the question again? I'm sorry.
The question was towards the end. All right. I do that all the time. I'd want to ask the question and then I end up just floating away.
Yeah, I went left, man. I was like, what happened there?
I was getting confused. I was thinking, wait, what's he saying? It's fine, don't worry. My question was, towards the end of the sentence, was the racism still very prevalent?
Yeah. So I was over there working, man, and I was taking this course. This course was called Inside Outside course, and it was a collaboration with Ohio State and the prison. And half of the classroom students were Ohio State students, and the other half were inmates, right? And we had an actual college course together, and it was called Power, Sex, and Gender, Power, and Sex. That was the name of the course, Gender, Power, and Sex. And we would talk about all these, those are some powerful issues, man. Gender, power, and sex. Gender, sex, and power. That's what it's called. Gender, sex, and power. And my professor gave us Professor T.E. Morris, man. She's an awesome artist. Awesome, man. Strong Black woman. But she gave us this article about this lady that wrote an essay about why she wanted a wife, because one of her male friends came over and was talking to her about he was looking for a wife, And she is thinking, she was like, shoot, I want a wife too. Like, you know, she's like all that. And she started listing all the things that she would want in a wife. And so I would go over to work and I would talk to the staff, right? The male and female staff about the topics that we discussed in my class the night before. And so this one particular day, I had the essay. And I had told the nurses that, and there was some male and female nurses that, hey, I got something I want you guys to read, man, to see what you think about it. So I gave this piece of paper to a nurse, period. Here it is. I gave it to her and walked away. So about an hour later, I'd say about 45 minutes later, man, the captain came up to me and was like, hey, turn around, cuff up. I said, what? And he cuffed me up, man. I got accused of trying to establish a relationship with a staff member by passing her a note.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? And I was like, what? And then when I explained what it was, because no one took the time to read it.
Yeah.
The only thing that everybody read was the fact that it said why I want a wife. And the last paragraph of the essay was talking about the type of, you know, sex that she would like to have or something. You know, it was just kind of general, but, you know, and they were like, oh, you're trying to establish a relationship. You can't give this to a staff member. And I was like, but this is not, if you just read it, just please read it. So, and of course the nurse was white, right? And to me, I was so offended because it seemed like she was crying rape, and it reminded me of back in the day, you know, like To Kill a Mockingbird. I don't know if you know what that story is. You ever heard that story?
I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what it was. You know, it was Atticus Finch, man. He's defending the guy that got accused of rape, you know, and it was nothing like that. It was nothing like that, man. And they fired me from my position because of that, you know, and I'm the one that established the program in the prison in the first place. And I ended up going to court for it, and I got found not guilty. But the ladies didn't want me to, the nurse didn't want me to come back over there because she said she was afraid that, you know, like I might try it again, I guess. I don't know. So that was that, man. And so, yeah, racism exists in the prison system, man. It's prevalent throughout the prison system.
Yeah, and it seems even till the end, and in 2021. I mean, we see it in the world as well. I'm sure, you know, as you sort of you know, live at home, you'll see it on the news and whatever. I mean, it's crazy that it's still happening in 2021, to be honest. I want to ask you. You mentioned, I want to go back a bit because you mentioned the hole, how you got sent to the hole, but your friend who was white, the person that you know, that slept at the top of the bunker, got away with it. What do you mean? What's the hole like? Is it just a dark room?
Well, see, it's solitary confinement. That's what it is. So it's not as bad as they portray on TV in some spots, but it can be, you know. But you know, the state of Ohio has deemed solitary confinement cruel and unusual punishment. So you're not really doing the whole time anymore by yourself. They may have give you a cellie, or, you know, you have to be like a super hardened criminal to be locked in your cell by yourself all the time. So
how long were you in there for? Like in the hole?
Well, for that particular, it was probably 10 days or so. The longest I've ever done in the hole was 11 months.
11 months?
11 months, man, on solitary confinement is because I beat up a sergeant's clerk for snitching on me.
Oh, I mean, what did he snitch you on?
I was getting a tattoo done.
Oh, okay.
He didn't like the fact that I could move around like I wanted to. He was the sergeant's clerk, but he wasn't originally from my block. I was the CO's, which is correctional officer. I was the CO's clerk. So the sergeant is hardly ever there. The sergeant's office is in the next block over, but he runs these 2 blocks. But I'm the CO's clerk, so I run in my block like I want to run. And when they moved him to our block, they wouldn't let him move, like, you know, move around like he wanted. His movement was restricted, and he was really jealous. And so he decided to take me out by snitching on me when I was going to get a tattoo.
So are these clerks other inmates then? And this is just a little job?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was a clerk for the COs. He was a clerk for the sergeant.
What does that mean, being a clerk?
That means that I handle all the paperwork.
Okay.
You know, I do all this was like, like I'm basically their secretary.
Hmm.
I'm their runner. I go get everybody. If they need somebody, I pass out passes. I go get people that they need to see. I put up flyers and posters and notices, all kinds of stuff.
How do you sort of get that job? Do they just come up to you and be like, "Oh, Ramon, do you want to be a clerk?" Or do you apply for it?
Yeah, you gotta be, like for me, I was just polished, man. I'm a people person, so I'm a good guy. I can be charming if I want to be, so I just was, hey man, some COs are as corrupt as we are, so they just want somebody like if you cover like if they know that you're a convict, like, man, meaning by there's a difference between a convict and an inmate, right? Like a convict is someone who knows the ins and outs, is not going to get, I'm not going to get the CO in trouble, because if I get the CO in trouble, it's going to get me in trouble, right? Where an inmate will go and tell them like, hey, the CO's doing this, and so us will be like, oh man, yeah, you know what I'm saying? But the convict will try to help the CO. I'm gonna feed the CO if he's hungry. If he's got, if he's got somebody that's telling on him, I'm gonna go tell him, hey man, you want me to handle this for you? You know what I'm saying? Like
everything there. You're secretary, bodyguard, you're like security, whatever. Intel.
Yeah.
Crazy. That's so crazy, because it's like we obviously as members of the public, I mean, especially because I live in the UK, I'm across the pond. It's like you just never would. So for me, I have this idea of, it's only because of movies that I don't have this idea, I guess. But the idea is you go to prison, you're in your prison, you got a cellmate, and then everything's regimented, and it's just like bang, 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 bang. I never think of the fact that there's other corrupt officers there that are like you. They're going, I'll give this guy a few privileges, and he'll do a load of stuff for me. So, what sort of privileges did you have as a clerk that, especially as the CEO's clerk, what privileges did you have that other inmates might not have, or other convicts?
I mean, I can like most guys, like I can come out of my cell whenever I want to.
What, and just walk around?
Yeah, come out and do whatever, walk around, go up and down the ranges, go up on the third floor if I need to. Like other guys are restricted, their movement are restricted, and they can only come out at a lot of times. So that was one thing. I had free run of the prison. I could go wherever I wanted to go. That was in that particular prison. In some prisons where I'm the clerk. I've been a clerk in almost every prison that I've been to. Like I've always because I'm organized, and like I'm a certified professional administrator. You know what I'm saying? So I went to administrative professional courses, so I know how to type. I know how to use a computer. Like that's why I've never been exposed to the technology, but I know a lot about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just trying to learn it, and just now I'm exposed to it. I'm trying to connect the dots. So I found. Yeah.
Sorry.
So like in the last prison, I was a clerk, and I came in. I just go. I move like I want to, man. They don't see the one thing about being a clerk or being in a privileged position is the staff trusts you, right? The staff trusts you because they know that you're not going to be doing anything illegal, right? You're not going to be doing anything that you're really not supposed to be doing, because you're trying to, you want to be, you're trying to get out of prison. You're trying to stay out of trouble, right? So, but you were still in prison. So you still do things that you're really not supposed to do. But, there's a lot of gray areas when it comes to the rules.
Like use your common sense. Yeah. What you can.
Yeah. So like, I'm not going to ask no cop to bring me some drugs or, something in, or phone or anything, if anything, man, bring me a cheeseburger.
What was you mentioned there about obviously food, and when food gets involved in the conversation, my eyes just my head, my mind.
Hey, I'm a foodie, man. I'm a foodie, dude.
I'm a foodie too. I want to ask you about sort of the food in the prison, because
it sucks, dude. It sucks when they tell you the food sucks. I was just telling somebody this, so I'm gonna tell you the same story, right? And this is one of the portions that I want you to print. I mean, if you don't publish anything, publish this part, all right?
It's gonna all publish. It's all getting published. This is so interesting.
Okay. All right. So look. So I was I used to, before I became a clerk, I was always a cook, right? And so in one of the prisons, I was either a cook or a clerk, either one, or sometimes I was both. So one prison, I was a cook, and the meal was chicken, macaroni, and cheese. Right? It's ground chicken, macaroni, and cheese mixed. You know what I'm saying? So I go get the box of chicken, and it says mechanically separated chicken, mechanically separated ground chicken. And I was like, what? I never heard of that. You know, have you ever heard of it? No, I haven't heard of it. So I'm like, all right, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's ground chicken. So I take the box, I open it up, and I dump it into the kettle. And I'm looking as I'm stirring, I see a whole chicken foot.
Oh.
I said, what the hell? And I'm talking about it's the whole chicken foot. You know, it's like this, like a whole chicken foot.
Oh man.
I was like, what the? And so I pull it out and I'm like, what the heck is this? And I'm like, man, so when I get off work, I go back to the block and I tell my girl, I was like, hey, I said, will you look up mechanically separated chicken? You know what I'm saying? And so she Googled it and she sent me the mixes back. And did you know that that it's not even classified as a meat? That's why it didn't say meat. It said mechanically separated chicken. And all of the meats that we got in prison were mechanically separated. And what that means is when you get, like, say, for example, a chicken, once they cut all the parts off the chicken that they're going to sell, everything that's left over, they throw in a grinder and make it into a paste and make patties and ground beef out of it. Like ground meat, ground, whatever they call it, make little ground pellets out of it.
Oh.
And that's the meats that we're getting in prison, especially in like we got these groups called Aramark and Trinity. And the meat is not even allowed to be sold on the open market. It's only designed for institutions and prisons.
Well, to be fair, you say that. Now you can actually find mechanically separated chicken on, I don't know in America, but you can find it in the UK that you can buy. It will say mechanically separated chicken. I don't know if it's as bad as that. It probably won't be, but that is disgusting. As if you saw a whole chicken foot and that just put you off. Did you not end up eating the meal? You just got.
I don't know, man. Listen, after that incident right there, I never ate any other meat out of the prison system. The only time I go to the kitchen is to get some fruits, some vegetable, or some bread.
That's all he survived on.
No, that's not what I survived on. Like we could go to commissary, which was we had a commissary, which was a prison store that we can go buy food from. Like we get packaged foods, and you know we had a lot of foods, like a lot of different options. We had a lot of different meats that we could choose from, like real meats, like ground beef, shredded beef, roast beef, chicken, fish, sausages, bacon, you know, vegetables. They sold real vegetables. They sold condiments. They sold cereals, crackers, soups, cheese, pops, Kool-Aid. You know,
so it's like your own little supermarket, I guess, or your own little, you know, store, I guess, to buy food. So, do they give you a certain amount of money that you can spend there? How does that work?
Yeah. So so in the prison that I was in, if you're a level 1 prisoner, you get $20 a month. $20 a month. That's your pay.
Oh, it doesn't seem like a lot.
It's not. How could you? But you got to remember that we don't have room, we don't have board, we don't have rent. You know what I'm saying? We don't have medical. We have no other expenses other than, you know, our hygiene. You know, and really they provide hygiene if you need it. If you're indigent, they can give you they give you whatever. Whoa, what happened? Wait a minute, I lost you.
Yeah, I mean, I can still hear you. I think you've just turned off your.
Okay, I got it. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Here we go. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. So we're talking about the stores. What were we talking about?
What? Commissary?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of different stuff. Just a lot of different stuff.
So what are you spending that $20 a month? What did you normally spend it on? Was there certain things that you always bought every month?
So every month, like my store day, I bought a box of crackers, I bought a jar of peanut butter, I bought some shredded beef, some ground beef, some pepperoni, either spaghetti or egg noodles, some bags of rice. Once a month, I would buy deodorant if I needed it, or toothpaste if I needed it. What else? I'd buy a box of Little Debbie's, 2 packs of duplex cookies, 3 boxes of Kool-Aid, and that would probably be about it. That would be the $20.
Right. Okay. And would you space that out for the rest of the month? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you'd have a bit of. Would you'd have that sparingly, like as in here and there, not like.
Well, I mean, but see,
how
so
would that work?
you remember what I told you, that there was gray areas in the rules and regulations, right? So I had little side hustles, right? So the one, I don't know if you saw the video of me braiding my mom's hair.
Yeah.
Right. So that was a side hustle of mine, man. I braided hair. And,
okay.
And like, it's a lot of guys in prison that want their hair braided. And so I would braid their hair, and I would charge them anywhere from $5 to $10 each time. It depends on what you want it done. Also, I can draw. You know, I'm an artist. I know how to draw and make cards. Like I made greeting cards, and I sold pop-up greeting cards. What else?
Yeah, your business going on in prison, didn't you?
Yeah, I was straight, man. I didn't never
You're a businessman.
Yeah, I didn't never worry about commissary, man. I was very good. Like my income, I had a steady stream of income. So
fair play to you. I mean, this what blew me away about when I was watching these videos of you, sort of when you went to Walmart for the first time, and even the rest of your videos where you're just talking, and so many people were commenting it. You seem so natural in front of technology and in front of the camera. It's like, even though we can see that it's all new to you, for example, when you're looking at the cereals and the chips and whatever, and how many we've got, but then at the same time, it seems like what it seems like is you've only forgotten the last 5 years and not the 20 you've been out for 20 years, because you come across as this sort of just really normal. And you think, especially for a member of the public, you know, that's, you know, never been to prison, you'd think after 20 years, how are you going to, it's essentially a new world, isn't it? Do you feel like jobs that you had basically kept you sort of developing and sane and going, and you were developing these skills? Do you think that played a big role in sort of being able to push through the full sentence?
Yeah, it played a huge role, man, because don't get it wrong, man. I'm institutionalized. You know, but I'm just not institutionalized to the degree that I could have been institutionalized, because I tried to stay connected to the technology, and I tried to stay connected to people. But I'm like I said, I'm real personable. So I like my staff members, and I was never, especially towards the late, like in the beginning part of my incarceration, I was very angry, right? But when I started the federal bit, I decided to educate, man, to start learning and educate and develop skills. And actually, because I knew when I got out, I said I couldn't make the same mistakes. So I started, you know, developing skills and learning trades and getting certifications. And I knew that the computers was a big thing. So I started, you know, I was always a nice guy, man. I've always, even guys that met me now, like my friends, some of my high school friends, and, you know, my family members was like, dude, you still the same, man, happy guy, man. And prison didn't change you. But it really did. I just, you know, the core me is still me, but I'm still institutionalized, hence the overwhelmed video.
Yeah.
Right. Where I'm overwhelmed, and I'm telling you the story about my dad and this, you know, I'm in Walmart, man, and I was literally about to break down and cry. I was having a panic attack or an anxiety attack, man, because all these people were coming around, and it was just like, I just couldn't understand it, man. And you know, like, I'm still like spooked by, like, I think this Walmart spooked me, man. But it wasn't the first one. It was the second time I went to Walmart. The second time it was a ton more people.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like the first one, it was not that many people in there. But the second time, like that was in Columbus. When I went to the Walmart in Alliance, I think it was in Alliance. Yeah, there was way more people, man. And that kind of messed me up, you know? So there's just certain things like I got attacked in my sleep one time in prison, so I can't sleep with the door open, right?
Oh.
The door has to be shut, you know? So
yeah.
like I'm institutionalized. There's certain things that I'm institutionalized on, man. They're just not to the degree that I try not to let it affect my everyday life or interaction with others.
I mean, you're doing amazingly well, and like I said, the videos are incredible to watch, and you genuinely do seem like a natural in front of camera. I can't wait to see what you end up doing over the next few months and years or so.
Well, here's the problem, man. Like so I got all of this content, right? And it's just raw footage, man. And I don't even know, like I tried to download this video editing app, right? So I can learn how to edit the videos and splice them together so I can because they're all choppy. And it's just, now I understand why people go to school for that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's very hard. Very hard.
I'm telling you right now, as someone who's grown up with this technology, even I don't know how to edit. If you actually watch, I only probably when I started this podcast, I found out how to actually put videos together and not make them choppy and what. That's one of the reasons why I started this podcast, because I wanted to learn new skills, and especially to do with sort of technology and editing and video editing and audio editing. And even me, when I'm doing it, it takes me ages to do it. So I think you're doing incredibly well. And honestly, even if it comes across as choppy, people will still watch it because it makes it even more real that you're someone that's just come into this new world. And it almost makes it even better in a way, because it's real and it's you. It's not sort of this edited version of you and you're trying to come across in a certain way. You're just trying to tell your story. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And people.
So I'm telling you what I'm getting ready to do, man. I give up on editing, man. So I'm just going to be it's going to be little small. Like some of the videos are short, you know, but it's going to be like smaller little clips because I haven't really been recording long segments like I was, and for the last couple of days I haven't really talked to my audience. But I got today I got a few different clips that I think I'm just going to post them as little clips, right?
Go for it.
Because it's just stuff that happened throughout the day.
Go for it.
And recordings.
Yeah, I mean that's why I wanted to get you on, because I knew that the videos that you're posting were a few minutes, and I was like, I want to really talk to this guy and really get some stories and get to know him a bit and just hear more about him. I mean, one of the things that you mentioned there was about the being attacked whilst you were asleep or you were sleeping.
Oh yeah.
Could you sort of tell us more about that?
All right, so how much time do we got, man?
As long as you can go for, honestly.
All right, so here, I want to reposition myself, right?
Okay, yeah.
And my daughter's calling me, man. I'm going to have to call her back. I can't do that and this at the same time, right?
You might be able to. If you want, you can.
Hold on. Let me see. I'm going to try to answer and see what happens, okay? Will it disconnect us?
If it does, then just go back on the email, click the link again, and you should be able to go.
Okay. Okay, that was it. Wow, look, man, that was cool, man. That was my daughter.
Was it? What was you?
All right, so
was just checking up on you.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I want to reposition myself so I can plug my charger in.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Can you still hear me? Your volume is down.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Can you hear? Okay, so I wonder why you're so low. All right, but never mind. Hold on. So you might get so this podcast thing, is it can I turn it like this?
Yeah, you can turn it however you want. But you might want to, yeah, there you go.
Try to back up some so I can so you can get some light. Now the podcast, is it video or just audio?
Oh, so I send out so I publish the video, the entire podcast on YouTube, the video, and then I'll also make little clips out of everything that you say, as in little 5-10 minute clips. And then I also have the whole thing on audio on I don't know if you've ever heard of Spotify, on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, which are like different apps. They're like YouTube, but for podcasts.
All right, wait a minute, Tariq. I can't. for some reason your volume is really, really low on your end.
Have you got the volume on the phone on Mac?
Yeah, it's all the way up. It's all the way up.
Right. Do you want to end this call and then click on that same link that I sent you earlier and then join again?
All right. So just hang up and do it. Just re-hit the link.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Brilliant. All right. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay. So we the sleep getting attacked in the sleep. What happened there?
All right, so remember I told you I was well, one of my other hustles was I was a cook. Remember I told you I was a cook, and so I was making sandwiches and I was making sandwiches and coming back and selling them. And I had this gay guy where he was my mule, right? Meaning he was the one that took all the stuff out. And he would make the sandwich, and I would give him all the stuff, and he would just make the sandwiches and sell them and give me my half, right? So I didn't really mess with the gay guy. We was just cool. We was just business partners, man. But this other guy that really wanted to get with the gay guy, and he just thought that I was in the way, so we got into an argument. Really, we didn't even. It got into an argument because he bumped me in the hall. I was walking one way, he was walking the other, and he bumped my shoulder. And and I was like, dude, like we exchanged words, and so I knew right then and there that we was going to have a fight. So we ended up it was crazy, man. I'm gonna tell the story, but it's honest, so I might as well be honest. So back at that particular time, I was a menace. I was terrible, man. I was young. I was probably around 21, maybe, 20, let's see, 90. Nah, man. And what was that? 90, yeah, probably like 94. Anyways, I was young, man. And I was very violent, man. I was very violent. So, and I could fight really good. And this guy, he wanted to have problems. So I noticed that he left his radio on his bed. So I went over and I took it. And then I went and sold it to this guy and told him that I just took it.
Oh, wow.
Then I went down into the shower, and my partners were coming down and telling me, "Hey man, Tim's looking for you." And I was like, "What?" And they was like, "Yeah, Tim's looking for you." And I was like, "All right, whatever." You know what I'm saying? So
Tim, the guy that you had the argument with, yeah. Okay.
I took his radio, so I came up to him and I was like, "Hey," I came out of the shower, put on my boots, and I was like, "Hey man, I heard you was looking for me." He was like, "Where's my radio?" And I was like, "Man, I ain't got your radio." And he was like, "Man, you got my radio." I said, "Dude, I don't have your radio, man." And he was like, "Well, you got my radio, man. You're gonna have to give me my radio." I said, "Look, dude, you can forget about it or fight about it. What you want to do?" And he said, "Well, guess we're gonna have to fight." And I was like, "Fine, cool." So, but then the COs came, was like, "Count time." So I left and went back. I drank a quarter. So I know this is gonna spark another question. I drank a quart of wine, right? Some prison wine, right? So I drank a quart of wine and I put on my Tupac and I was just getting amped up. And I went back and we got into a fight. And I beat him up, right? So this happened on a Wednesday night. So I beat him up, man, and I messed up his face. And he was one of those pretty guys that's always in the mirror primping.
Oh, okay.
So his face was messed up and he was angry. He couldn't go to work. So Sunday morning, I woke up to somebody. He threw he had got a jug and he had put some boiling water, some Magic Shave, which is just a hair removal thing like neat, like Nair. It's a hair removal powder, and some sugar. And he boiled it and he threw it in my face while I was asleep.
Oh.
And it messed me up, man. I spent 11 days in OSU's burn ward, going through this thing called debreeding. It sucks, dude. It sucks. And so I couldn't, when I came, like after all that was said and done, and they brought me back to the prison, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't go to sleep because it was an open dorm, meaning that we was in an open bay with a bunch of bunk beds. And so the only way that I could sleep is if I had one guy sleeping, sitting on one end of my bed, and the other guy sleeping at the other on, and they would sit there while I'd try to go to sleep, try to get some sleep. Otherwise, I wasn't sleeping. I just couldn't go to sleep, man. So the after effect of that is now I can't sleep with the door open. Like as long as it's like even the cells, like if I lock my door, or I'll just shut the door and I'll make an alarm, like I'll put some aluminum cans up, so when the door opens, they fall and makes a noise, and So it's that's the PTSD that I suffer from.
Yeah, it is PTSD. Yeah. Well, when that happened, sort of, when was your immediate reaction? Was it just painful? Or did you start throwing punches? What were you doing?
So my immediate, like when it happened, like, so me and my dudes, we used to always prank each other, right? We used to get high and drunk and prank each other. Like my one dude, he passed out, and Gino, he was an Italian dude, and he was always in the mirror, man, smoothing his face. So I wrote prick across his forehead in permanent marker while he was passed out. So his answer to that was he put peanut butter and jelly in my shoes.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so when I jumped in my shoes, it was like, what the? Because I'd always jump right in my shoes, right? And I left them untied, and I just jump right in both of them and take off. And so we would always prank each other. We had those type of pranks. So that night, the night before, we was all drinking and smoking, and we was high and drunk. And I when the water hit me, I thought all I felt was water. I didn't feel the heat at first, but then, like when it happened, he hit me. I sat up, and then when he punched me, and then when he hit me, it dawned on me that I smelled chemicals, right? And I rolled out of bed because the thing is, you throw the chemicals in the face, and you got a weapon, you got a knife, or what we call a shank. Like you that's the thing, you blind him and then you stab him. So I knew that he was on the left side of me, so I rolled out of the bed on the right side, and when I came around, I saw him, and he didn't have a weapon in his hand, and I was super mad. So I jumped on him, and by the time the police came, I remember the police came in, and the police grabbed my shoulder right here, and I looked because I don't, I'm in the middle of a fight, so now somebody else is touching me. And when he went to pull me off, I saw my skin come off with his shoulder, with his fingers, and it kind of froze me. And I was like, "What the heck?" And then I heard my dude come, like they stood us up, and then my dude came over, and I turned around and looked at him, and he was like, "Oh man," he was like, "What?" And then so this older guy named Hollywood, he came and grabbed me, and he dragged me in the bathroom, and he turned on the water in the utility sink, and he put my face under there, and he was like, "Here, stay under there, put your face under there." And I'm like, "What the heck's going on?" I didn't even know I was burnt, man. I didn't even feel anything.
Adrenaline's just thingy there, feeling the pain, yeah.
But once the police was like, "Come on, he's got to go. They got to, bring him out here." So then it was then that I started feeling the burning, and then like when he threw it in my face, I sucked in. I was like, and I sucked it down my throat. So now my throat's constricting, and I ended up passing out, man, and it was crazy, man. I woke up in an ambulance, then I passed out again and woke up in the hospital. So yeah, I got scars. You can't really tell unless I point them out to you. I'll show them to you. You'll be like, "Oh yeah, you can see it." But
okay.
I don't have any eyebrows, man. I got my eyebrows are gone.
Yeah, it would have been the burn and then the chemicals and that. It would have just, I guess, completely got rid of them. What happened to what ended up happening to you? Because Tim would have surely got in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, nothing, man. I went to the hospital. They patched me up, brought me back, and put me back in population.
But what happened to the guy that did it? Did he
I
not?
don't know.
You don't
have
know
no
what
idea.
happened?
I haven't seen him since.
Oh, all right. So that was the last time you saw him.
That was it. That was the last time I saw him.
Oh wow, that's crazy. All over. Well, I mean, I guess when you're in prison, a radio does mean a lot to you. But I mean, he could have done a lot worse potentially. Like as in through that.
Actually, somebody told me that he had this metal tray at first, and they stopped him from doing it, and then he went back and did that. So
What was
he
he going to do with the metal tray?
was going to crack me in the face with it or in the skull while I was asleep.
Wow. It's crazy that like they'd be willing, because obviously he'll know the consequences of what he's gonna do. Like he's who knows what'll end up happening to him, but he's still like, this guy stole my radio. I'm gonna teach him a lesson. Was that the worst thing that happened to you in prison?
Yeah, that was the most injured that I've been.
Hmm.
That was probably I think the worst thing that happened to me was my grandmother dying.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah. Did you get to see her? Like, was she allowed to visit you or anything?
I mean, nah.
No.
She was too sick to travel, man.
Oh. So the last time you saw her was before you went in there?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that sort of, I know it's obviously a sensitive topic, but is that, and I could see it straight away in when you said the word grandma. Does that sort of make you think, why the hell did I do that? Why did I do this? I let my grandma down or anything like that? Do you feel like you sort of, I don't know, because obviously you missed out on seeing her for that end part of her life. How does that make you feel now?
I feel, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I'm hurt that I wasn't there because I used to take care of her as much as I could whenever I was around. She had diabetes and she had heart disease too. So, it was times where she was incoherent and I'd have to like feed her some sugar so she would, prep up. And, I remember putting lotion on her feet and putting lotion on her back and just massaging her back. And, my grandma was everything. So so I'll just tell you this. So let me tell you how I found out how she died. And this will give you an example of how impactful it was for me for prison. So the case manager calls me in her office and she was like, she doesn't. She calls me to the CO's desk and she tells me, hey, I need to see you after count. And I was like, all right, I just didn't think of another. And so I walked in her office and she had this piece of paper on her desk. And it was on one side of her desk and she was like, oh, it's something I was supposed to tell you. And she was like, oh yeah. And she puts this piece of paper down in front of me and it's upside down. And then I'm looking at it and I read it and it says notification of death, Darnell Howard, Darnett Reed, 7:15 a.m. And I'm like, Darnell Howard's my mom and Darnett is my sister. I mean, Darnell Howard's my grandmother and Darnett is my sister. And I'm like, what the motive? I'm like, and she was like, oh yeah, your grandma passed. And I was like, what? And I was like, when did this happen? And she was like, oh, and she's looking at it and she's like, oh, it says, we were notified at 7:15 this morning. It was now 12:30.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what? And so she was like, well, you want to call somebody? And I was like, yeah, I want to call somebody. I got to call my mom because this is my mom's mom. So I know she's like just hurt, super hurt. So I called my mom and, it was, my mom couldn't even talk to me. She couldn't even talk to me. She was just out of it. So my uncles talked to me. And so they told me what was going on and they was asking me if I could go to the funeral. Is there a way that they could pay for me to go to the funeral? And I was like, I don't know, man. I'll work on it and see. So I remember walking out of her office. And as I was walking out of her office, I had these emotions. Like I realized that my grandmother is gone. Like she's gone. So I remember sitting down on the floor in the middle of the hallway and I just started crying, man. And I remember it was really like a whirlwind, man. Like I had all of these emotions just swirling around and it was weird because it was just like all of these emotions. It was like I was just spinning out of control. It was like going and going. And and I was just like almost lost myself, man. I really think I was getting ready to go insane. Like, like really like to lose my mind because I couldn't rationalize things, man. I just was trying to rationalize that my grandmother is gone, and I'm having all these flashbacks. I'm having all this guilt and resentment because I'm not there, and right when I was just ready to go into La La Land, I felt somebody down on the ground hugging. I was like, and it kind of snapped me too. And it was my dude, man. It was my dude, Thomas Strauss, man, from Columbus, Ohio. And he called him Lil T, man. And he had transferred to both of them together. And he ended up in this prison together somehow. And actually, we was at 2 different prisons. This was our 3rd prison we was together at. And he hugged me, got down on the ground, and he hugged me, man. Kind of snapped me back, and that's how I found out my grandma passed.
Wow. I mean, it's the worst way, I guess, especially because you saw that letter and you had sort of a little bit of an inclination, I guess, but then it was like 4 or 5 hours later as well. When they tell you that sort of information, or they sort of, or is it just very straight up like, oh yeah, your grandma passed, or is it, or do they have some sort of, like, if I was to tell someone that someone had passed away, I'd say it in a that in a caring way and be like, do you need something or whatever? Or they like that, or they just like, no, here.
I would imagine it's based on the individual that's delivering the news. She was indifferent. I've seen some that were caring. I've seen some that was, just didn't care at all, man. Just didn't care, So it's just depends on the individual. It's a lot of, they say if you want to see the dregs of society, look at the staff of a prison. Because it takes a special kind of person to work in a prison, to see somebody oppressed and depressed every day, to be in control. It's a trip, man. It's necessary. It's what do you call it? A necessity.
Yeah.
But it's also it needs reform, man. Especially United States, prison needs to be reformed.
Before I do want to quickly talk about the sort of how you'd reform, or in what way you'd reform the United States prison system. Before I answer that, after your grandma passed, did you end up going to the funeral or not? Were you not allowed to? No.
So at that time, they said that grandmas aren't considered immediate family.
Oh wow,
that's exactly what they told me.
That must have been. That's just, I don't even know what to say to that. So were you trying to convince them, or were you just like, that's it, I can't do anything?
Their policy, the Ohio Department of Rehabilitations and Corrections policy at that time was grandmothers are not considered immediate family, so no, you cannot go.
Oh, I mean, so how did you because obviously now, because at least if you went to a funeral, you could have said your goodbyes in a way. How did you deal with that? Obviously not being able to go. How did you say your goodbyes?
So my son was a baby at the time, and I mean like a baby, and my his mom, I asked her to take him to the funeral, so at least I could see it through his eyes, Just that's what I said. I just want him, like, at least he can be there. And so she took him there.
How did you sort of deal with it after, like, as in, obviously the next day, what was that like, the sort of grieving process?
Man, there's really no grieving process in that, man. You just, that was a bad day. So the next day it can't be Groundhog Day because it's already done. You know what I'm saying? So you just move on, man. And you gotta, you just move on, keep moving.
Have you gone? Well, sorry.
There's really, who I'm going to grieve to, man. These same dudes is going through the same stuff that I'm going through. I remember one of the guys gave me a joint, and he was like, "Here, man, smoke this joint." And that night that I got found out, one of the guys gave me a pill and was like, "Here, man, this will knock you out." So I took the pill and passed out. Woke up the next morning, smoked the joint, and just kept it moving.
Wow. I forgot what I was going to say. I'm lost for words essentially there. Yeah, I'm lost for words, to be honest. It's crazy to think that sort of, you've not really had that chance to say goodbye because she was so important to you. When you came out of prison, have you gone to see the graveyard?
Actually, I went today, man.
Okay, what was that like, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, man, that was kind of rough, man, because now my grandpa and my grandma are both gone. So when I got there was grass all over the headstone and flowers. It was just, I had to clean it up, man. I cleaned it up. And, it was sad, man. I hope my grandma's proud of me right now, man. So
I'm sure she is. Honestly, I can see that it's that she meant a lot to you, even when you said it at the beginning. That she meant a lot to you, and I've got a grandma as well, and she played a huge role in my life. My mum passed away when I was very young. When I was about 10 years old, she passed away, and my grandma basically just took the sort of role as a mum essentially.
right.
And so she's been like a mum to me for over 10 years now. I think it's been about 11, 12 years. So I can completely understand the connection that you had with your grandma. And the love that me and my sister, me and my sister have for her, because we see her as another mum. It's there. So I can completely empathize with you, and I can't imagine if something happened to her, not being able to say goodbye properly. I can't imagine sort of the impact that would have, and especially being sort of, in a situation where, like you said, you can't really grieve because there's no one to grieve to. Everyone else is in the same position. Someone else has probably lost someone. What are you going to do? And especially the way the woman that told you the news, just sort of said it. That obviously didn't help the situation. I mean, all I can say is I'm sorry that you went through that process and had to deal with it. I mean, obviously, I don't want to come across as rude, but I do have, just a few things that I want to just sort of ask you before we wrap up. I don't want to. I know this has been so long. I completely forgot to tell you how long it would be, so I apologize for that.
I don't mind. I'm not doing anything else. Next thing I know, I just got to decide which video to post.
Fair play. I mean, yeah, no, I do really appreciate sort of you coming on and giving me your time of day. I want to ask you sort of about what was life like just before you went to prison for the 20 years, just before you said that. What was the world like then? And when you came out, what is the world like now? How does it differ?
Man, it's technology, man. It's the technology.
That's the big thing, yeah, technology.
When I got locked up, man, CDs were just being the thing, cell phones were becoming, like the house phones were becoming cordless house phones, like, like kind of like cellular phone, house phone type thing. The Sega Genesis was, no, the PlayStation. The first PlayStation was out, and I was playing Tekken. I remember that, in Mortal Kombat, right? I was playing Mortal Kombat on Sega Genesis and Tekken on PlayStation, and it was, it wasn't really all that interconnectedness. The technology, the information it wasn't technology, man. That's the best that I can say. That's the biggest change by far is technology. It's just technology. Certain things and then, so it's been, well over 20 plus years since I've been here in my town, and everything's different. Like all the buildings, and like our business district has grown, and these trees that were saplings when I came in are now full blown trees. It's like, wow, remember that tree? It's just, yeah, it's by far, man, technology.
What was the first thing that you saw and you're like, whoa, what were you first blown away by?
shoot, I couldn't get in the door, man.
What, the door of the car?
The door of Walmart. Well, I mean, yeah,
Oh.
the door of the like, I was like, how do you open this thing, man? I was opening the door like my son's car, and he was like, oh. And I got in. I was like, how you push the window up and down. And he was like, I was like, how you, like, I'm pushing push the window down, and he was like, no, you pull up one. And I was like, what? How you pull up on it? It's like, I was like, dude, this is crazy, man. So, hey, funny story, man. So my son takes me back to his house. They want me to, I want to take a shower. I really wanted to take a bath, but they didn't have a bath. They didn't have a bathtub. So I wanted to take a shower. So I went in to take a shower, and I realized that I didn't have any shower shoes. The shower is by far the most nastiest place in the prison.
Oh,
right?
yeah, I bet.
It's the nastiest place. So you gotta have shower shoes on. So I was thinking about going into I was like, I'm looking at the shower, and I'm like, dude, I gotta step in there with no shower shoes on. I was like, oh God, this is gonna, like, I didn't know. I was like, so I was thinking, like, should I just run the water and act like I took a shower, or should I surely just go ahead and take a shower? So I ended up just taking a shower, man. I was like, I get over it, And so that was a weird thing, man. Just little things, little things.
Well,
And the toilet was so small. I couldn't believe how small the toilet was. And I'm sitting on there trying to ease in between. It's like, it was tiny, man. I was like, this is crazy. Is this how it is out here? Because everything in prison is big and sturdy. You know what I'm saying? And everything out here is fragile.
You mentioned, like me, that we're both very enthusiastic foodies, yeah? What was the first thing you ate when you came out?
Oh man, so my son's mom made me. She asked me what I wanted. I wanted some real toast, like actual toast. I hadn't had toast. We don't get toast, man. Like, we don't get toast. Our idea of toast is throwing some butter on them and on some bread and throwing it in the microwave till it dries out.
Oh wow.
So that's our toast.
Toast.
And so I wanted some real toast, a fried egg, and some sausage links.
Oh, what was that like?
Oh, that was delicious, dude. It was delicious. Because you don't get sausage, man. We don't get sausage. They don't sell sausage in there. We don't get fried eggs. Not where I was at. So that was the first thing I ate. And then, so that was for lunch. They took me to the Mongolian barbecue, right? And this is where you put all this food in a bowl. You put all your seasonings and sauces in the bowl, and you take it over to this grill, and he grills it on a grill.
Good.
And, you know what I'm saying? So that was that. That was like anticlimactic. It was all right, but it wasn't. It was good, but it wasn't. It was all right. It was all right.
Okay.
Then they dropped. That was my son, and my experience with my son and his family. And then so we drove up here to Alliance, Ohio, to my mom's house, and my mom took us to dinner. She took us to Texas Roadhouse. Because my mom asked me what did I want for dinner? What's my first meal that I want? I told her that I wanted a steak, man. So I went to Texas Roadhouse, and I got a tomahawk ribeye steak, a loaded baked potato, a salad, and a root beer float.
Oh, I bet that was good. I bet that was the most beautiful thing you've had, that steak.
That steak didn't stand a chance, man.
Oh, I bet you went through that like within minutes. You probably ate that quicker than when the police found you after you robbed the bank.
Yeah, that thing was gone, man. Everybody looked up. I was down. It was like, dang. I was like, dude, hey, that steak was gone, man. That was good. That was really good.
What's it been like, sort of, it's so, there's very few people like you that have been in the prison system for so long and then come out, and especially come out with, obviously, I know you've got PTSD and you've had traumas and they'll live up with you forever, but you come out and, you can take advantage of some of these little things and being able to see Walmart for the first time. What is it like? Like, what's the best way to sort of describe it to someone that has never experienced like that sort of thing?
Man, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it, man. It's just, I don't know, man. I just know. I mean, you know how I came up with the idea of documenting this whole thing?
I was gonna ask you that, yeah.
Yeah, so it started by like when guys were finding out that I was getting ready to get out. They kept, remember I told you the guys asked me, what are you going to do? What's the first thing you're going to do? I was like, I'm going to Walmart. And they was like, Walmart? And they was like, you ain't never been to Walmart? And I was like, yeah. So when I was telling people that, they was like, they was like, dude, like, where you been? Like, cause I would meet guests like from outside the prison, and I tell them how long I was locked up, and they were like, dude, this is going to be amazing when you get out. It's going to blow you away. And people are going to ask, like, where you been, in a cage? In a cave, you know what I'm saying? That's what and I was like, yeah, I said, no, I wasn't exactly in a cave, but just change the G change the B with a G, then you'll have where I was at. So, and I was like, man, you know what? I should document this, because everybody that I met was like, dude, it's going to be fun when you get out. Cause they knew the type of guy that I was. And they were like, dude, it's going to be fun when you get out. I wish I was with you. And I decided that I came up with this idea. Well, maybe I should document my reentry. And plus I wanted to show guys, that you can come out and you don't have to be all, chasing the dollar, and, just let the system work for you, man. Like this. And if you, especially, it's vitally important that guys that's coming out of prison have a strong support system. It's vitally important, man. Without this support system, I don't know where I'd be. But I got a strong support system, man. And like literally, like and with this YouTube channel and this podcast here, just guys just allowing me to talk, man, allowing me to tell my story, and I like telling my story, man, because I want others to know that we can actually succeed, man. We can be successful. We don't have to be part of the recidivism rate, man. We can change that narrative, So, just because I've been in jail for all that time doesn't mean I have to, act like it.
I mean,
right?
This is the thing. You don't act like it. And when I asked you the question of, what does it feel like? I asked you that question. The reason why, not because I wanted an answer. I actually just wanted to see your facial expression, and your face tells more than words could ever. The way you sort of go, I don't know. And like every single video, when I'm watching it, you're just in awe of everything. And it's incredible because it makes me grateful as well. The fact that I've had access to all these things, little things like I remember sort of the most wholesome thing I remember from the first video I watched of you is when you were counting the different types of the different, what was it? Was it the different types
cereal?
Cereals, that's it. Yeah, and you were counting, you were like, oh, there's 3, there's 4, there's 6, there's 7, and you went, oh my god, there's 11 different types. And I was smiling the whole way through because I thought it was amazing. Because it's like I've had this my whole life and I've never just stopped to think, wow, I can go into a supermarket and I have so much variety, it's ridiculous. And in other countries people don't have that. In prisons, like you didn't have that. And it just made me feel so grateful. And I think that's why people are going to love the sort of videos that you're going to produce. And genuinely, over time, you'll learn how to edit. You've literally just got access to the mobile phone for the first time. Don't cut yourself some slack, because do not worry. In a few months, if you carry on doing it, you learn a bit more how to edit. You learn a bit more how to maybe make them look a bit fancier. My stuff isn't fancy at all, and they'll just be even better. But right now, I just love the videos that you're producing, and I recommend everyone check them out. I'll leave the link in the description because it's just incredible to see. It really does change your perception on life, and I want to thank you for that, because you've changed my perception on life, not just through this podcast, but through the videos that you've made, and that's why I wanted to get you on. So thank you very much, Ramon.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome. As a matter of fact, my daughter called me to tell me that there's another guy that wants me to do an interview on his podcast.
But that's what I said to you.
And my son says, Dad, how did you come out and become more popular than me? I'm like, I don't know, man. I said, look, man, I'm just being honest, man. I just want to put positivity out there, man. And, try to break the negative perceptions that people have about, guys returning to society after long stints in prison. And like, we're not all bad guys, man. We're not all bad guys. And I might be one of a dozen, but at least I'm one of them. And it doesn't have to be a bad experience. Like I said, I give all glory to the man above, man, because he changed my life. And once I started going down that path, man, it's just, you know, you live that life, man, and you walk. I say you walk the talk. That's what I say. You walk the talk. And when I walk that talk, man, it's just been blessing after blessing. And I'm just going to continue to strive to put the message out there that God loves you, man. You know, and if He can change a wretch like me, He can change anybody. You know, that's the ultimate goal, man. Is just to show people that, you know, you can find peace, man. You can find peace. You know, you can find love. You don't have to be alone, and you don't have to do it alone.
Were you religious before, or was this during?
Absolutely not, dude. I was like the anti-religious.
Yeah.
You know,
So
and I'm
what
not
changed
even
then?
sure this man. So, man, the truth is, it was a couple COs, man. One in particular that led me to Christ, man. That's the honest to God truth. That this couple COs that you wouldn't think, like, they took the time to minister to me, man. And once I submitted to Christ, man, like, my testimony is not something that I would want to. I don't want to put my testimony on a podcast.
That's fine.
I want to put my testimony in a church, right, where guys can hear it and girls can hear it, and they know that God is real, man. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I believe in the Holy Spirit. I believe in the gifts of the Holy Spirit because I had a supernatural encounter with Christ. And
Oh, wow.
and it changed my life, man. It changed, like, I went from angry, hateful, and hurt to having love, peace, and joy in an instant, in a blink of an eye. And I mean, like, literally, dude, like, I'm telling you exactly, like, literally, I went from those emotions to these emotions in a blink of an eye. And it's from that point forward, man, I knew that God was real, man. God, like, he all He wants to do is for us to obey. He just wants us. All He wants is a relationship with us, man. He just wants us to just look at Him and say, Abba, Father. That's all He wants, man. Is to say, Dad. You know. And once you do that, man, once you acknowledge Him as that, dude, He opens. I always say that God's little bit is too much, you know. So because He's been pouring out in me, man, and it's just, it's just amazing, man. It's just, God is amazing, man. His grace is amazing. It's amazing, and I
That's such
encourage
a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah, I encourage all your listeners, all your followers, you know, before you follow me, follow Christ. You know, that's my message. Before you follow me, follow Christ.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way you put it, and I do hope, you know, you soon do get to, you know, put out your testimony in a church and be able to speak in a church and inspire more young people towards your sort of faith and your goals. I have sort of two final questions that I want to ask you. The first one is, what would you mentioned that the prison system needs to change. What would you change about the prison system? What do you feel like needs changing?
The very first thing that I would change is the programming, man. They need to have better programs for reentry, right? A lot of prisons, especially the last prison that I in, they didn't have a reentry program. Like, they just really didn't have any reentry. Like, they had some resources, some resource guides, but they just didn't have a reentry program, man. Guys need to I didn't like the way okay, so if I'll give you an example about the programming. The state of Ohio has decided that you are only allowed to take one vocational program per number, right? So right before when I first got to the prison that I was in, I took the vocational microcomputer applications, the administrative professional computer class, right? It's a vocational class. I passed that. I got the certification in that. And then the next thing I wanted to do was go get my CDLs, just, you know, so I could be armed with a CDL, which is a commercial driver's license. And you could transfer to another prison, do the program, and then come back to your parent institution. Well, they told me that I couldn't do it because I'm only allowed to have one vocational program per number. And because I've already did this vocational program, I can't do another one. And I said, that don't make any sense, because what if I got like an 8-year sentence, right? And I come in and I go do the program in my first 2 years or whatnot. And then, You telling me for the next 6 years I can't do nothing? I'm like, and I can't get a job doing, it's like, so what do you mean? Like I'm done with the program? Here's another thing. So if I was trying to get my driver's license, I don't know if I mentioned this in the thing. So trying to get my driver's license and I flunked the first time, right? But you know why I flunked the first time? Because the information that they gave me from the books that they had were from like 2007, right? So I'm studying this book and I had been studying it for a minute. And so I'm studying this book. So when I go take the driver's test, I'm like, hey, none of this information was in that book. You know what I'm saying? I'm wondering how I flunked the test. And I'm a very intelligent man, and so I asked the lady can I have one of those books? And I looked on the back and saw the date. It was 2020. I said, so I got a book that's 14 years old. No wonder it's all messed up. You know what I'm saying? So I had to study again, so that's what I'm telling you. Like, it's the information that they give. They don't prepare us for coming out of prison, so that's one of the reforms I make. The second reform that I make is the food. They need to do a better job on the food as far as prison reform. They need, that's why dudes come out with obese. They be obese. They'll have heart issues, diabetes, high blood pressure. It's just the poor quality food because we don't want to eat the food in the kitchen. So we're forced to eat the processed foods out of commissary, right? Which is, in the long run, it's probably terrible for you. I think the whole criminal justice system from start to finish needs an overhaul. Yeah. But the prison system needs, the prison system needs to change as far as it needs to be more holistic. We need more holistic care, and it needs to focus more on rehabilitation and less on punishment and corrections.
Yeah, I mean, just by the way you sort of described this whole, throughout the whole podcast, experience in prison, you can definitely see why it seems like it's so backwards in so many ways. I mean, like the 2007 book, it seems like it's a million years behind, and the fact that you can only do one vocational and per number, and it just doesn't make sense, because surely one of the points of prison, yes, it's a deterrence and yes, it's punishment, but it's also, well, these guys are going to come out soon, and right. That's why you see such high numbers. I can't remember what the word is, but you see so many sort of people that have been in prison, they end up coming out within a year, they're back in again.
It's called recidivism.
Yeah. So they get out, do something, because they've got no choice. They can't get a job. They can't, work. They can't do anything else. They go, well, I might as well go back to crime. They go back to crime, and then they end up back in prison. And that, to be fair, that ends up costing the taxpayer even more money. So there's an incentive there for the taxpayer to go, right, we'll set up, rehabilitation, make them a bit more, centered around rehabilitation. You can 100% tell based on what you've sort of talked about. I know I said I just have this question I should have actually asked at the beginning of the podcast. But you mentioned those sort of vocational subjects. I'm just wondering, what is sort of a typical day in prison like then?
All right, so I can tell you my typical day, right? I can't, and it varies for different people, man. Different people do different things. So my typical day, I wake up about 5:30 in the morning. I do my Bible study, and then at 6 o'clock, I go out and I play. I had a guy that I played every morning. We played chess every morning until about 7 o'clock. And we, and what's up, Don Shay? If he ever sees this or hears this, I just wanted to know I'd give him a shout out, right? I hope his games got better. but so we'd play chess till about 7, and then at 7 o'clock, I would go play we had this PlayStation 4 that we just got.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I'd go in and I'd play Need for Speed. I learned how to drive the little car, man. So that was the only game I knew how to play. The other ones was too complicated, man. It was just too much involved. That one, all I had to do was hold the trigger down and turn.
You need to play GTA, trust me.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, man. So I want to see it. So, so after I play that till 7:30, I go to my bosses come in at 7:30. So I was the teacher's assistant for the administrative professional class. So I was basically the tutor. I actually set up that whole curriculum. So I do that, and then at a quarter on Mondays, at a quarter till 8, my actual boss, because the one thing about prison is you must have a job. You're going to be assigned to somebody, and that's the job that you have, and that's the job that you get paid for. So my actual job was the recreation clerk, but my unofficial job was the administrative professional tutor. But we got an agreement with the unit staff that I could do both jobs. Even though I only get paid for one, I still do both jobs, right? So, and I was also so I do that. So I would on Mondays I would just go to rec, and any announcements that my boss wanted put up or anything that he would needed to do, I do. Otherwise, I would come back to the block and I would do the administrative professional course. And we had that course until 10 o'clock. And then at 10 o'clock, we break for a count, because count's at 10:30. But we have to give guys time to get back to the block. But at 10 o'clock, I would go into my case manager's office and I would talk to him about, just he was helping me prepare for helping me prepare for getting released. So we talked. He was kind of a cool guy, man. So I was able to sit down and talk with him. Sometimes we didn't talk about nothing. We just sit in there and just watch videos or watch the news or just, what I'm saying? He was a good dude. 10:30 is count. During count, I would watch.
What's count?
Count. Yeah, they have periodically throughout the day. They at set times. They have count time where you have to be in your room and they have to count and make sure that everybody is there.
Oh, okay.
So that's what we call count time. And I would get count. So from 10:30 to 11 o'clock was count. And you typically watch TV or maybe fold my clothes if I did some laundry in the morning, or make some phone calls, because we had these little tablets in our room that we can make just phone calls. That's all we could do is just make a phone call on it. And so then at 11 o'clock, if count's clear, I would go help with the recycling sometimes, or I would just maybe go play the game for an hour or a half hour or so. Talk to my case manager. The next class didn't start till 12:30. So when the class started, for the computer class, I would go in the computer class and I would stay in there till 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock is from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock is kind of like this free time, do what you want, wind down, take a shower, go work out if I wanted to. Sometimes I'd go out and play pickleball, or I'd run, like go jogging or something. And I wasn't really a workout buff, so I just like to exercise or play a sport. Then 4 o'clock is another count. You notice I skipped lunch, right? Or breakfast.
Yeah.
You notice that?
I was gonna ask you. I thought you were a foodie. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that I left that out on purpose because I never went.
Oh, okay.
My typical day didn't call for me going to the kitchen. So, and now that, at 4 o'clock is count. Then after 4 o'clock count, about 4:30 count clears. There's, that's my boss's late night. So he stays till 7 or 8. So I go over to rec and we might run a program. Like we might have a cornhole tournament or a 3-point foul shot tournament, or frisbee golf, or, bingo, or are you smarter than the 5th grader? Yeah. I mean, like we had all kinds of little programs that we put together that we just have these contests, and we try to give guys something to do recreationally on Monday and Tuesday nights. And then 7 o'clock, he leaves. I come back, take a shower, fix me something to eat, watch some TV or so, make a couple phone calls. By 10 o'clock, I'm usually asleep, and then repeat. That's it.
And then that's your typical day. I mean, it's so interesting. I should have actually asked it at the beginning, but I completely forgot. I mean, I got so excited to have you on, and I know I've said it several times, but I genuinely am. It genuinely is my pleasure to get you on. I mean, it was actually 2 a.m. when here in the UK when we saw it. So so I went to sleep at around 7 p.m. and then got up for about 1 a.m. to get ready for the podcast, because I was that excited to have you on. And I don't get up that early for anyone, by the way. I love two things in life, right? It's my food and my sleep. So I mean, the fact that I sacrificed one of them yeah, like that's how excited I was. And genuinely, what I want to do is a year from now, I want to get you back on, and I want to see and I want to talk about with you about what you've done throughout the year, and hopefully as COVID calms down, we didn't even get to talk much about COVID, but as COVID calms down and restrictions ease a bit more, we can have a more chat about what you've been up to and how you've been getting on. Yeah, I think you should definitely get sort of your granddaughter in charge of your social media or something like that. And because I think you're going to have a lot of people that want to get you on their podcast. It's an absolute pleasure for me to have you. This is your first experience of a podcast. When I asked you, would you like to come on my podcast? You said, what's a podcast? And I was like, oh yeah, I need to explain to him what a podcast is. And it was amazing. So I genuinely do appreciate, just your time. I know I've taken up 2 hours of your time. My final question to you, it's a question that I like to ask every guest that I get on, is if you could go back to and speak with your 20-year-old self, what would you say to him?
Well, my 20-year-old self was in prison.
Oh yeah, right. Well, still, what would you say to him then? Or what would you say to? Actually, no. Let's change it up a bit. What would you say to 20-year-olds right now, around 20-ish? What would you say to them? What advice would you give to them?
To 20-ish, man, slow down, man. Take your time. Slow down. Just slow down. Take your time, and be more interactive with people. Like, get off these computers. Because like I'm one of those guys. Like I tell people, like I tell my daughter, don't if we're in the same house, don't text me. You know what I'm saying? Call me. And if you call me, leave a message. Don't hang up. Because if that means so just slow down, man, and get off these computers, man. Be more interactive with people, man. Learn to be more sociable. You know what I thought you was going to ask me? Really? Because I always ask my friends, if you could go back in time and change one event, what would it be and why?
Well, go on then. I'll cut that bit out and pretend that that's my question. Okay, so Ramon, if you could go back in time and take one event, what event would that be, or change one event?
It would be that I would go to the service on my original ship date that I was set to go to. And that's what it was. I was supposed to leave on October 30th, 1988. And my mom didn't act like she was going to miss me, that I was going. She was really, I felt like she was disappointed that I turned down all the college scholarships to go to the service. She really wanted me to go to college. And I was like, dude, I'm tired of school. I just did 12 years. I'm not trying to do 12 more, So like, I was like, I just graduated. I'm going to go travel the world because all my uncles were in the service. So, and I didn't make my ship date. My recruiter was really mad, and they rescheduled my ship date for January the 4th. And then December 29th, I believe, is when I shot that guy.
Wow. So your whole life would be completely different.
Yep.
So, I mean, if there is a tip out there for 20-year-olds, is, be on time with things, plan ahead. I guess that's what we all got to do.
Yep. Stick with your plans, man. Make a plan. If you make a plan, stick to it. And don't let anybody kill your dreams. There's a lot of dream killers out there, man. They tell you, oh, you can't do it, or that's not going to work, or, that's too hard. Why don't you do this, man? If you got a dream, man, go for it, man. Go for it.
Oh, well, I mean, Ramon, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've taken up 2 hours and 10 minutes of your time, so I do apologize, but I've loved every single minute of it, mate, honestly. And I want to get you on in a year's time. I'm going to send you a Google Calendar invite for exactly a year from today.
Okay.
So that it's already booked in advance, because I know you're going to be busy in a year in advance. You're going to have, probably hundreds of thousands of subscribers by then. I'm sure of it. Just because of the content that I'm sure you're about to produce. I'm going to send you a Google Calendar invite sometime this week. If you just click accept, it will basically automatically put it in your calendar, so that in a year's time approaching, you'll see, oh yeah, remember when I did that podcast a year ago with that Tarek guy? It'll be there. Right. I'll send you a link to when the episode is out, which should be in about a few weeks' time, because I've already got a few already scheduled. So in about 2 weeks' time, or maybe I might end up just doing it this week. I might edit it, because I really did enjoy this podcast. So I want to get it out as soon as possible, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to enjoy it. I'm sure your followers are going to love it. I know the comment that I did on your on your YouTube channel, it got, I think, 20, 30 likes or something, because that many people want to see you on a podcast. So there's going to be loads of people that want to see you on a podcast. You're absolute legend for coming on. I really do appreciate your time, Ramon. I've enjoyed every single second. Your stories are incredible, and I can't wait to just speak to you again in the future.
Man, I'm the one that feels honored, dude. I'm serious.
Mate.
I'm humbled by you saying all that. You just called me a legend. I'm like, dude, how the hell can I be a legend? I just got out.
You're a bigger legend than most people, and you've only been out for a few days, which is incredible. But yeah, no, it's been an absolute pleasure. Like I said, thank your granddaughter. Was it your granddaughter that helped you out with the Zoom thing and everything?
Yeah. My granddaughter me up with my granddaughter and I forget it. Yeah, my granddaughter and my son and my nephews. Like I got like my family, the little youngsters in my family. Like, Dad, we got you. They was like, hey, if I saw your videos, they was like, yeah, it was crazy, man.
I think you definitely need to get one of them to sell you out some sort of like social media profile, so that if anyone wants to do a podcast with you, they can just message and be like, oh, can I get your dad or your granddad on my podcast? And then they can be like, oh well, and then they'll speak to you and then get everything organized, just to make things easier for you, I guess, and help you along the way as well.
It's a trip. Like I gotta call as soon as I hang up with you, I'm calling my daughter, and she's got this guy that wants to do a podcast with me, so I gotta call her back.
Brilliant. But yeah, like I said, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. You are a legend, and I can't wait to do it again in a year's time, and I can't wait to hear what you've been up to. I'm going to be following all your videos as well. But yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day, and take care of yourself, Ramon.
All right, God bless you, man. Thank you. Stay out of trouble.
I will do, man. You stay out of trouble. I'll stay out of trouble. You need no robbing banks yet, right? If you're gonna rob a bank, take the tracking device out of the bag and then go. All right.
All right. Good night, man.
All right. Yep. Have a nice day. And that is it for this week's episode of the podcast. Bloody hell, that was a lot. I mean, what can I say? It was an amazing podcast. I can't wait to get Ramon back on in a year's time. I say hopefully, but I do hope all the best for him, and I hope he does get on to bigger and better podcasts. But hopefully he finds the time to come on to the Me, Myself, and Hopefully You podcast in a year's time, so we can chat about what he's been doing so far. Make sure you check out his YouTube channel. It is the most wholesome content you'll ever get. And what you'll notice, if you watch all the way through, I mean, you should have watched all the way through if you're watching this intro, is that I left every single part of it in. I normally try and cut it to make it a bit smoother. I just want to leave every part because honestly, everything about this guy was just wholesome and sweet, and he was a legend. And even the email he sent me afterwards was just the nicest thing to read, and it was an absolute pleasure for me to be able to interview him on his first ever podcast. I actually messaged him when I wanted him on the podcast, and he was like, "What's a podcast?" And I realized, oh yeah, probably should explain what a podcast is. But yeah, it was amazing. Please do let me know if you enjoyed this episode. Please do share it as well, because I'm so proud of this interview, and I was so proud afterwards. So please do share it with your friends, and go, oh yeah, look, this is an interesting podcast. Or look, how did Tariq manage to get this guy on? I have no idea how I managed to get Ramon on. But yeah, please do share it with family, with friends, put it on your stories, whatever. And if you do share it, then tag us, tag me at Me, Myself, and Hopefully You podcast, or tag my personal account, whichever one you prefer. And yeah, make sure you like, comment, make sure you subscribe as well, because there are some pretty amazing episodes coming up over the next few weeks, over the summer. Make sure you download it on Spotify or whatever, Apple Podcasts, whatever you use. And yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing about this podcast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did making it. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Until next time.